Today we're going to be talking about Threads, the new Twitter competitor from Instagram or Facebook or Meta or whoever it is that's actually making it. Launched at the perfect time after Twitter hit the self-destruct button. Threads has over 100 million users already and seems to be doing pretty well, but has very mixed reactions depending on who you talk to. So yeah, that's what today's episode's all about. Enjoy. Catch you in a minute. Okay, so unless you are have been living under a rock, one of our favorite phrases this week, you may already know about the fact that Facebook or Meta or Instagram have launched a new Twitter challenger called Threads. And there's been a very mixed reaction. One particular article that we came up here is Facebook's Threads is so depressing, which is kind of a funny read. I'm not sure I entirely agree with it. I haven't actually tried Threads that much myself. But just in case, Threads is basically a competitor to Twitter. It's it's going to be using the Mastodon backend activity pub. It's a kind of like you post something on your stream. It's like you have to use your Instagram account to log in, and you post stuff to the public, and people can follow and re-thread and stuff like that. It's basically Twitter by Instagram. So there was one article here by Jason someone. Sorry,
Gilbert.
I can't read the
Jason
text
Gilbert.
Jason Gilbert, yes.
This is from
and
his
starts off with
Substack.
Threads is so Threads is depressing. There was basically they're sort of saying how lifeless and soulless the whole Threads thing is. I mean, I don't think I'm going to be using that much. Who knows? But I would say give it a chance. It's only been out for a week or whatever.
I mean,
and
the difference.
Sorry.
It's just driven by who's using it, right? Like the platform, right. Who cares about what platform it is? If there are interesting people on it, it'll be an interesting tool.
Exactly.
True.
It's content reliant, right? And it's user reliant. Very, very much so. Like in the public, it's very important for Threads and Twitter and Blue Sky and all of these new feed-based social medias to have a good type of user base, a lot of mixed types of users. And honestly, as much as I despise this app, I also have not signed up. I don't have a Facebook. I don't have an Instagram. They hit 100 million users in like a week.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
It is successful as a launch. I don't know if it will survive the trials of time, but I mean, all numbers indicate that it's a huge success.
I wonder if they're just counting everybody that they automatically created accounts from Instagram.
Well, no, because you couldn't automatically. You had to sign up.
Oh, you had to do something.
Yeah.
I tried to get to my Instagram account on Threads, and it just said there was an error. Then when I created an account, it appeared. So it wasn't automatic creation.
I installed Threads on my phone, and the only option was to log in. There was no option to create an account, so I just gave up.
And then also like
my Instagram account.
We haven't talked about this. The permissions and the data collected by Threads was insane. We're talking about health data, like financial data, like the most random bullshit. Zuck wants it all. He is slurping. He's hungry for all your data.
Yeah. So
go ahead, Peter.
No, go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
I think that's part of the problem with Threads, is that it's Facebook and it's Instagram, and everybody knows what they're getting with those platforms. It's vanilla, spyware nonsense that, like, we get it. We already know what it is.
Right.
Yeah. It was a perfectly timed launch, though. They must have had this in the works for a little while to be able to launch it. But the week that Twitter started rate limiting tweets and DDoSed itself and made temporarily or intermittently tweets not be publicly viewable, Threads was launched, it's funny because last week we had an episode. We ended up asking the question, so what do you think's next? And I think John and I were saying, Blue Sky is kind of maybe going to die.
If Blue Sky had opened the floodgates, Blue Sky would have been it.
Yeah, they don't have the infrastructure to do it though. I think that's the
Which
problem.
makes sense. Like I get it. They're really going for a open approach. It's very cool. It's gonna take time. I hope they don't miss the boat because I actually find Blue Sky to be a very interesting contender. And what I also find super interesting is that Elon is silent about Blue Sky while suing and talking about suing Zuck and Instagram and Facebook and Meta.
So I
Because
accepted
he's blatantly copying.
I accepted an invite to Blue Sky,
Yep.
and got logged in, and there's nothing there. I have no idea what to do with it because I'm not automatic. Like I'm not following anybody. My feed is empty, so
You are such a boomer. It's
logged
insane.
into it twice and then left.
Holy fuck. I'm just every time something like this comes up, I forget that you're like 90. Dude, there's a search function. I don't know what you do.
What am I
right?
going to
Like you
search
walk
for?
a living?
I don't know what I want.
I don't know.
Look, this is what I love
Dude,
about
I don't
TikTok
know.
is I just open it and it gives me stuff.
Okay.
What I have to search for. I don't know what I want to see. I just want to be entertained.
Use
You just
the
want to be
explore
fed.
function. Tells you what's
Seriously,
what's
there's at the
hot,
top
what
of the
people are
page.
checking.
Just go look at
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's too complicated.
So the reason I find this super interesting is because we're looking at our subscriber counts, and my God, we just gotta ask again. Please subscribe. That's why it's so interesting. Please, no, but we do appreciate you all. I want to say this. This is just let me get this out. Jack, what's his last name?
Dorsey.
It's just Jack.
Big Jack.
Oh,
Okay,
I
Big
don't know,
J.
Jacku. I don't know.
Founder of Twitter.
No, you're
The
right.
creator
Oh, it was
of
Dorsey.
the-
Oh, okay.
Dorsey.
Yeah.
Founder of Twitter, the creator of the digital town square, left Twitter in the hands of whoever the fuck. Obviously, didn't go well. Ended up in Elon's, collection of.
What are you
dead
talking
things.
about,
So,
John?
hold on, I'm getting there. He then goes on to create Blue Sky, a Twitter clone. Literally, you guys, it is the same. I was on the browser version. You could have one for one. Everything is the same. Elon is silent. I believe that Jack Dorsey has some clause in his like, I founded this company, I left this company, that says he can make as many Twitters as he wants without any type of reprimand. Like he can do whatever he wants because he made it. So
You think that would
fuck
keep Musk
you,
quiet?
basically.
I don't think so.
Elon hasn't said a word. Elon hasn't said a word about Blue Sky.
Wait.
Okay, all right.
It's not all bad news for. Sorry, is it bad news or good news? So bad news for Threads that nobody's using it. Good news for Twitter. Turns out they have some big fans. Leader of the Taliban came out and said, "Twitter's the place to be. We're not going anywhere. The Taliban is here to stay."
Insane. Wow.
Like Talibans and white nationalists. The Taliban and white nationalists. Twitter's core audience.
What a platform.
Twitter is kind of turning into Truth Social a bit.
Yeah, that's the vibe.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Free speech.
Terrible
free
outcome
speech.
changes. But free speech only if I agree with you.
Right. But Thread's also not doing so great there.
This was one of the horrible thing that, what you mentioned earlier with the privacy thing with Facebook and Instagram is that this is a story by somebody Mistress Matisse, who was saying that she had a Facebook account as Mistress Matisse, her professional name, but Facebook somehow scraped her legal name from somewhere or got it or bought the data, I don't know, and then changed her display name to her real name without any notice of consent, which was, I guess, to do with their real names policy, but still is kind of fucked up. And this is the kind of issue that Threads is going to run into. And part of so there's an interesting situation with Threads, right? So there's this thing called the Fediverse, which is a federated services. Part of that is like Mastodon, which is a federated chat service. And the way that Mastodon works is that you have Blue Sky is going to be federated, but it's using its own protocol. It's using the protocol. Mastodon has a thing called ActivityPub. I don't know if they're going to have a bridge between them, but the idea, Blue Sky has the same kind of concept that you can have multiple servers, and they're all independent, but they interact with each other. So you can have your home on Mastodon. I have my account on Mastodon on a site called infosec.exchange, which is sort of focus on security and information security. There's other ones which are to do with art. There's LGBT communities, but they're all kind of, so if you post in one place, then it gets federated to all the other servers. So you can read it anywhere, you can post it anywhere, you can follow people on other places, but it gives it a robustness. It gives it a kind of, this, it's not like a centralized institute organization like with Twitter or Facebook. There's no centrally controlling authority as well. Each individual server has its own authority. So the thing about Threads is that it's planned to be part of the Fediverse. It's planned to use ActivityPub and actually connect to all the other Mastodon instances, which would be a huge shift for Mastodon itself, because it means that when you post on Threads, you'll be posting on Mastodon as well, and vice versa, which would be a big jump. But then there's also a kind of movement in amongst the Mastodon server admins to sign a thing called a Fedi Pact, which is basically not to federate their services, not to allow the Threads servers to connect to their instances, which would be a big kind of schism, and who knows what's going to happen with that.
Which makes sense when we're talking about Mastodon. You know, this is a really, really good tool. They've taken privacy super seriously. They've taken security super seriously. Looking, across the water, you've got Threads, which has taken the complete opposite take and stance. And I mean, I totally get why they would want this.
Couldn't that help you expand your user base, though?
You mean for Mastodon?
Yeah.
But Mastodon doesn't care. Mastodon isn't an org like Facebook or Meta or Twitter in the traditional sense. They don't care. This is all open source. This is all self-hosted stuff. I can go spin up a Mastodon instance and name it my instance, John's instance, and that's that. Like, and I will have to pay the hosting costs. I will have to pay the bandwidth costs, everything. And I can allow and disallow. I can have my own rules. I can be super dictator, or I can be super nice. It all comes down to these micro communities on Mastodon. And if the admins want, they can say, fuck Threads specifically.
So
and
who's
I'm totally
interested in Mastodon's growth? Like as Twitter started going downhill, people speculated maybe Mastodon is the new Twitter. So the market was looking for a solution. Mastodon could potentially be that solution, but Mastodon has absolutely no incentive to offer anything, because it's just a bunch of guys saying, fuck it, I get what I want, so what do I care?
But no, you're not. I don't think you're looking at it through the right lens. Mastodon is an open source tool available for you to create a social network. It is the bare boned Twitter.
But the people who want to leave Twitter don't want to create a social network. They want to have a social network to go to.
They can go and they can join it's thousands of Mastodon.
If there's somebody who hosts a server that cares to let you join, according to the argument you just made.
Many of them are very available and very open and very, like, you can read. The first thing you do is you read their rules, their guidelines.
Sure, but everything. You just got done telling me how they have no interest in interoperability or growth, because that's not what they care about.
No. They have no interest in interoperability with Threads.
It's the same as there's actually a blacklist of Mastodon servers, because some people have started servers which are all to do with like underage anime or whatever. This kind of really horrible topics.
Or hate groups.
Yeah, and or like there's probably a True Social Mastodon instance. So a Mastodon admin can blacklist another server and say, I don't want to connect to that server, that instance, and that's just how it works. It's meant to be a sort of, not a democracy, but like a federation. So if most Mastodon admins say, we don't want to connect to Threads because we don't like Threads privacy policy, then it's a consensus decision. It's an individual decision.
A better example. Here's a better example, Mike. There is a Black Lives Matter. There's a BLM Mastodon instance, right? There's also a Ku Klux Klan instance. Obviously, the BLM is going to blacklist the Ku Klux Klan, and they will not be able to interact with that. They won't be able to see posts. They won't be able to look in. Right? Are you following?
Yeah.
So that's it. You just get to make these rules. Threads is a blatant violator of privacy, and I mean, so much bullshit. It's Zuck. Like, we've looked at his list of controversies on this show. They don't want anything to do with them. The Privacy Federation, let's say the privacy instance, doesn't want threads to be able to be accessed. They don't want them to be able to pull data. So they blacklist threads, as in the instance threads, because like you said, they're using the protocol, the same protocol as Mastodon.
Yeah, so I used to think the problem with people turning to Mastodon from Twitter was usability and discoverability. Now I'm realizing that it's even more fundamental. It's just not, it's never going to be that, town square that Twitter purports to be.
It's meant to actually be a town square in the more traditional sense. A town square the size of a country isn't actually a town square, right? Mastodon is the true town square for the InfoSec community, for the privacy community, for the anime community, because they're micro communities. They're not all of Twitter.
Yeah. So there's one... there's one big server called Mastodon.social, which is more general, and that's sort of more Twitter. There's like hundreds of thousands of users on there, but it's not just one thing. The whole Fediverse movement is lots of things. It's about like having a distributed network and these kind of things. But the fact that Facebook, Instagram, Meta, or whoever wants to implement ActivityPub as a protocol is a huge vindication of the protocol itself. It is like a massive institution saying, "Hey, we want to connect to this thing." So on its own, that is kind of cool. But what people are going to do with it is,
I agree.
something else.